4 years ago, California liberal politicians passed a terrible law banning the use of independent contractors in our state. They've allowed shakedown lawsuits against small businesses, all because big union bosses want to force everyone to join a union. Coming up, I unveil the Freedom to Work law for the state of California. I'll tell you what it does, how it restores economic prosperity for entrepreneurs and small businesses, and what you can do to help us fight. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state legislator representing District 75 in the state assembly. 4 years ago, a terrible law was implemented, AB 5. You might have heard about it if you're a small business owner or if you are a independent contractor. You certainly have been hurt by it. AB 5 is a piece of legislation drafted by union bosses. Their view was, if we pass this, we can force all people into labor unions eventually. Down the road, everybody will be forced into a union. And remember, labor unions used to be a good thing. I don't think they're a good thing anymore. The labor unions are only there to take money out of your paycheck. And they say, well, we're negotiating for better benefits and work conditions for employees. Now, we have passed labor laws, minimum wage increases. There is no management tyranny against labor workers. There's no sweatshops. We've got a very robust, very costly set of labor standards and rules and enforcement powers. And that's been put into place over the last several decades. Labor unions now exist to basically pick winners and losers, take money out of people's pockets, give it to the politicians, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So when they passed AB 5, the goal behind this bill, along with other legislation they've put into place, has always been to intimidate and bully and shake down businesses to force them to hire workers and then force them into a labor union agreement. AB 5 bans the use of independent contractors. So an independent contractor used to be able to just get hired by a small business. Mostly independent contractors work for small businesses because big businesses can afford to hire employees to do various functions. When you're a small business, you outsource because, for example, if you plan a few meetings a year, you don't want to hire a meeting planner as a full-time employee. What you do is you go and you subcontract to someone who has made it their business as a gig worker, as an independent contractor, to plan and execute meetings for their clients. Graphic design, another perfect example. You may be a small business and you might say, well, I'm going to do one marketing piece a year. Well, you don't hire a staff member to do graphic design. It's a very specialized trade. No, what you do is you outsource it. So that's the value of independent contracting. Is twofold. One is the independent contractor gets to specialize in the work that they want to engage in, that they're passionate about, and do that full time because they have a book of business, a book of clients that they do this for. The value to the small business is they get cost efficiencies because they don't have to have a full-time employee doing that work. They can subcontract to someone who can specialize in it on an needed basis. AB 5 basically says, nope, you have to make them an employee, full stop. As a result of AB 5, California's gig economy has been completely decimated. We used to be a robust economy where you could start your own small business, but the precursor of actually incorporating and having a full-time small business is you might be working for a company as an employee and you do some side work. That's why it's called the gig economy. Not so in California. AB 5, by prohibiting the use of independent contractors in a wide swath of areas, has made it toxic for independent contractors. We're talking about people who've lost their livelihoods, who've lost their dreams. And we're also talking about a predatory law that has been used to go after small businesses that weren't even aware that we're not allowed to hire someone to do a certain task under a 1099 basis. So that's the first problem. The second problem that we have in California that really hurts small businesses and really undermines job creation is something called the Private Attorney General Act, PAGA. This is a law, again, in the labor union toolkit of weapons that basically says anyone can walk into a business and say, I'm suing you for labor law violations, but I don't know what labor law violations you've committed yet. But under PAGA, you have to hand over all of your HR policies, all of your pay stubs, all of your records, and I get to pour through them and see if you've done something wrong. And basically, PAGA allows these shakedown lawyers, think ADA lawsuits, but for labor law. That's basically what we're talking about for PAGA. These shakedown lawyers walk into a small business that they know can't afford a lawyer to fight an unjust, frivolous claim. And the PAGA attorney says, look, give me all your records, but if you give me $250,000, I'll walk away. And the business owner says, I'm not giving you anything. I haven't done anything wrong. They then call their lawyer. The small business is told by their lawyer, well, they got a point, because if you do have a violation somewhere, and California's labor rules are so complex that at some point most people violate something. And it's, again, these rules are stupid. We have a rule on the books, and I kid you not. Do you know that is a labor regulation in the state of California that an employer is mandated to monitor and manage the temperature of the employee restroom at every location in their business? Did you know that? Oh, yes. It's massive documents of regulations in the state of California. It's buried in there that you cannot have temperature lower than 68 degrees in a bathroom, or you've committed a labor law violation. I kid you not. In the 1950s in California, the labor law digest that the California Chamber of Commerce published, they used to publish a pamphlet, was a little pamphlet of, here are all the rules that if you're a manager in the state of California, if you're a business, you have to comply with these rules as to how you interact with your employees, the environment for the employees, the regulations for payroll, et cetera. It's a little tiny pamphlet that told you all the rules you needed to know. By the 1990s, that pamphlet published by the Chamber of Commerce in California had grown to an inch thick in the 1990s, an inch of rules and regulations. Today, it's online, but the last edition that they published in print was about 7 years ago, 3 inches thick. And that requirement regarding the temperature of the employee restroom, yep, it's in there. And so you've got ADA lawsuits that everyone is well aware of, where these shakedown lawyers come into a restaurant or a salon and say, oh, well, your toilet, seat is 3 inches wrong, and you get sued. It's usually $10,000. It's predatory. It's a shameful way for these slick, corrupt lawyers to make their pay, their payday. But PAGA lawsuits are just on steroids. It's just horrific, because we're talking about millions and millions of dollars, because it has to deal with every employee being hurt by the fact that, yep, the temperature was 67 degrees, not 68 degrees in the employee restroom for a few moments. It's insane. And so PAGA was put in place by the labor unions because what they wanted was not to take care of employees. There is a clever little exemption in PAGA that states that if you are a labor union contractor, if your business goes union, you're exempt from PAGA lawsuits. Oh, so this is what we're doing here. So you pass a bad law, you empower these charlatan lawyers, these scummy lawyers to come in and shake down small businesses for non-existent violations, irrelevant violations that have nothing to do with workers. The business goes bankrupt, or the business says, okay, fine, we're going to go union so that we don't have any more of these lawsuits. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That is the corruption of your California state government. This is why they don't give a rip about workers. They don't care that they pass legislation to destroy jobs that will result in small businesses being devastated or people's dreams being dashed. They only care about the money, honey. And that is put you in a union so that they can take money out of your paycheck every month, every payroll. And a massive percentage of that goes, guess what? To the politicians passing the predatory laws that empower the labor union rampage. So in California, we've lost the American dream. We've lost the ability for people to start their own business. We have crushed small businesses. We've empowered the big man businesses because the big businesses are the ones that can afford to pass on the costs and absorb the cost of a union contract. And of course, we've lined the pockets of the politicians passing the laws courtesy of union donations in political campaigns. The media won't tell you this, but that's the scam system that has been rolled into place. I'm proud of the fact that I'm introducing a bill called the Freedom to Work Act. Now, I don't expect the state legislature to pass my bill because they're all bought by the labor unions, most of them. But we're going to try to get this on the ballot in a future election. And we're wanting to educate voters, employers, workers as to really the broken system that we have, the predatory system. So go onto the website, reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org. We have a campaign called Freedom to Work. And that campaign will be raising the awareness about these predatory laws that have been passed that dash the dreams of entrepreneurs and hurt workers in the state of California, all to benefit the labor union bosses and the politicians. Go to reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org. Find that campaign on our website under the campaign tab. Chip in a contribution. Put gas in the tank so that we can fight for economic freedom in our state. Also, sign up at the bottom of that website. At the very bottom of the website, you can put in your first name, your last name, your zip code, your phone number, and your email address. You will be getting updates once a week, periodically, on the status of the campaign. Now, what does my bill do? It does three things. Number one, and the bill number is AB 522. Number one, it repeals AB 5 from 2019 that banned independent contractors. So my bill says you can hire an independent contractor. It's between you and the independent contractor. We're not going to limit that conversation. Go ahead and do it. So my bill first gives freedom to work by allowing independent contractors and small businesses to once again work together. Second, we repeal the Private Attorney General's Act, PAGA. So we end the shakedown lawsuits. And this is super important because all you have to do is, Google AB5. Here's a headline. Just from a few months ago, California's draconian AB5 continues to decimate the careers of independent professionals. AB5 has led to a significant decline of 10.5% in self-employment, as well as overall employment of 4.4% decline in California. And by the way, it's so bad that the legislature routinely is passing amendments to AB5 because various independent contractor groups have to give campaign contributions to beg for relief from AB5. How about this? How about we just get rid of the damn law entirely? And by the way, who passed it? There she is. Lorena Gonzalez Cruella. She wrote this bill, AB5, and then the labor unions hired her as their chief lobbyist and leader for the state of California. You want to talk about corruption? Again, AB5 has only benefited the labor union people in the state. That's the only job that's been protected. Everyone else's job has been destroyed and put on the chopping block. Here's another one on PAGA. This is just from 2 weeks ago. Excessive lawsuits cost LA, Long Beach, Anaheim over 400,000 jobs. It goes into the Private Attorney General's Act. Every day, thousands of California businesses face abusive lawsuits based on technical violations related to the Private Attorney General's Act or the Americans with Disabilities Act. And this is all from the California Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse Organization. They keep track of these predatory lawsuits. I want to also tell you about another provision of my bill, which is super important, and that is we need to start shining a light on the predatory and abusive and corrupt practices of labor unions in the state of California. And that is why my bill requires that labor unions must always keep at least 60% of their members in support of the continuation of the union at all times. Because labor unions sometimes win an election and then suddenly, boom, they lose the support of the workers. If you're going to take people's money out of their paycheck without their permission, or with, if they voted against a labor union, then you should have constant, continuous support from the overall body of a supermajority level. So my bill would set a 60% threshold at all times for labor union support in order for the union to continue to operate. We also would require full transparency on their finances so that the members who pay dues, that are forced to pay dues out of their payroll, that those members know where their money's going, who's getting it, because there are numerous examples of corruption, of misappropriation of funds by labor union officials. In Washington, the Education and Workforce held a hearing last year on numerous examples of labor union misappropriation. Chairwoman Fox investigates 12 unions for recent fraud and corruption, seeks answers on protecting workers from further union malfeasance. And so she held a hearing. She sent letters out. She says, quote, each letter highlights specific examples of recent corruption and requests information about union efforts to protect members from fraud, corruption, and improper accounting. And so my bill, AB 522, would instill transparency and accountability audits and standards on all labor unions operating in California. Isn't that wonderful? Open the books, honey. Let's take a look. Let's poke around. What are you doing with the money? Oh, you don't like the sunshine, the light of day, the transparency? Too bad. It's not your money. It's your members' money. They deserve to know what you're doing with all the dues you take out of their paycheck. At Reform California, we are fighting to restore California back to the state we once were proud of. This is not going to happen overnight, but it will happen if we all join together in this growing grassroots movement to make our state better and to defend the freedom to work in our state. I can't do this alone. I'm in the legislature. I'm in the belly of the beast, but I'm also on the outside as a volunteer chairman of this movement at Reform California. We need everyone to help out. So go on that website today, reformcalifornia.org, sign up, be part of this movement, receive information like this podcast, share it with your friends so that we can break through the nonsense of the liberal media out there. But also, please know that we need the financial support to power these campaigns, to recruit, train, endorse, and support candidates for office, and to put ballot measures on the ballot. By the way, Reform California played a key role in a PAGA reform initiative that we got implemented last year, collecting signatures, supporting the ballot measure, and forcing the legislature to enact some common sense reforms. Not everything we wanted, but we did move the ball. Help us get freedom to work enacted in the state of California, AB 522. Until next time, I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state legislator. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.